Okay, so here's what we're gonna do next. First, I'm gonna show you the mental model. What's actually happening cognitively inside the brain when a pro navigates the desert, okay? Then I'm gonna give you a physical framework. You can put it in your hands immediately. This will be like the lesson part of the video. Not really a lesson, but you're gonna learn something. Congratulations, you made it into big band. Now what? Okay, you made it into big band. You did the audition, you played, you probably ran some scales, you probably read some music that looked familiar, maybe unfamiliar, and you may not even know how you made the audition. And if you don't, stick with me because I want to walk you through what this brand new world looks like for you. And it's awesome, okay? When this thing locks in, it's euphoric, it's addictive, and you're gonna wanna rehearse every day if you get it right. Now, if you don't get it right, you'll survive, but then you won't thrive. And I want you to thrive. So, this is your new job. Now pause. I just did something to you on purpose. I wanted you to feel the gap between where you are and what you just heard. And I'm not trying to intimidate you. I want you to feel that, whoa. Now, in most school band situations, no one is gonna actually sit you down and explain or show you how to get from here to that. And that's not an attack. Your piano teacher trained you to read and interpret and shape written music, and that's an essential and beautiful skill set. Your jazz band director, they're hearing time and groove and the reaction to the musical energy, and these are just two different worlds. One teaches you to open a book and read the notes. The other expects you to respond to sound in real time, and those lanes rarely connect. So you're stuck in the middle, and it's not your fault. It's not their fault. It's a system gap. So yes, you're expected to function in a rhythm section without ever being trained how to function in a rhythm section. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, rhythm section, the bass, the piano, the drums, the guitar, that's your team. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna walk you through what your actual job is and how to do it. What you're expected to do daily, and the one moment in every chart where new skills show up. And you'll know what I'm talking about when we get there. And why this isn't harder, but it's just governed by different rules. And once you understand the rules, the confusion starts to dissipate. And when you walk into rehearsal, you'll think, oh, that's what he was talking about. So let's get into it. We're basically gonna take the form of a typical big band chart. We're gonna go from top to bottom. That will help us to understand what we're gonna expect on a day-to-day basis. Let me show you the map. Once you see the structure, your theory brain or your school brain will calm down. And I want you to understand the culture. I want you to understand the form of this music before you even open a chart. So here we go. Let's start at the top. The intro. Sometimes the intro has written notes. There's a piano lick, there's a riff, or it's something that features the piano sometimes. Sometimes the director drops it on your stand and says, hey, make sure you nail that. And that's scary, right? You're like, what, just me? Or it could be a big band figure where the horns play something but you're also playing something, or it's orchestrated and they go boobity beep blink blink and you do something in the middle. Right? Or it's fully notated chords with rhythms behind the band, and that can be a little bit complicated. This is where your piano lessons help. And I want you to hear me clearly. When you're reading something like that on your chart, you don't have to be a Hollywood sight reader to survive it, okay? In LA, when they drop the baton and they're playing for a movie or something and there's 80 musicians on the clock, yeah, they gotta get it done in the first take or it's gonna get expensive real fast. But in school, you get to study it. You get to slow it down, loop it, install it, take it to your piano lesson and say, help me with this intro, what am I supposed to play? So you're very lucky in that regard. This is where your piano teacher is gold, if they know how to teach practice. So don't quit your piano lessons. Remember that people are responsible for writing this music out for you. These are arrangers, and the arrangers at middle and high school level, they usually do one of two things. They'll write out an exact chord with the rhythms, and that can look like chaos. They stack notes, big fat chords that you're not used to reading in piano lessons. You got syncopation with rests and 8 notes tied over the bar line, and it's just gobbledygook. Or they'll just write these chords as whole notes, big blocks, and they just show you what the hand shape is, what the right hand's doing, then what the left hand's doing. Just kind of like drop your hands, and they leave the rhythm up to you. And that can feel like a test, you know, like, hey, just get the right answers. Like someone handed you an empty space and said, impress me, right? But they're not testing you. They're giving you space, okay? Hold that thought, and we're gonna come back to that concept later. So that's the intro. Let's take it to now the opening section where the band starts playing the melody. Band kicks in, and this is the melody. It's the A section, right? Letter A. Take it at letter A. You know, that's where we go. It's the exposition, compositionally speaking. The horns are basically the lead singer of the group. So they're like singing the melody. And because it's a band and there's lots of horns, we like to stack things, and the arrangement builds and the layers build and the voices stack and it gets bigger and a little more exciting, right? So you're just following along on the form of the tune, and a lot of times you're playing something that's written throughout that spot. But by the time you get to the end of that big statement, right, there's a big punctuation. Ta-da! Right? It's really clear where you are. It's a clear landing. It feels safe. And then we cross a border, and there's no melody, there's no brass, band's not playing anymore, it's just the rhythm section. There's no written notes as a safety net, and there's just the chord symbols and the slashes and the open space. It's a desert, and you're staring at it and you're thinking, what the heck am I supposed to do here? That moment. If you had one skill to learn in your entire musical world for big band, rhythm section combo, it's how to handle that section right there. Because that skill, that's the difference between surviving and thriving. That's the skill that makes you sound like the clip that I showed you at the beginning. That's the skill where your band director stops waving his hands, looks at you and says, whoa, where did you learn that? That's the skill where your friends say, I want to be in a band with that piano player. That's the skill that you take to the jazz festivals and you win awards. Awards for you, awards for your rhythm section, awards for your entire band. And if you get this section right, everything changes. And that's where we're going next. This isn't an actual piano lesson, but I'm gonna show you some stuff, because what I wanna do is I wanna show you the categories that we're dealing with, and I wanna shrink this knowledge that seems like it's an infinite set of knowledge that you have to memorize and recall and analyze and figure out on the spot. It's not like that. We're gonna categorize it down, and we're gonna fold it into a nice little understandable pile of information so that you can see that, okay, this is doable. All right, so we crossed that border and there's no melody, there's no brass, there's no written notes here. We're all trying to help you out. We want you to succeed, right? And we try to help you and we'll say, okay, so that's C7 sharp 11. So first you build the dominant 7th and then make sure the 3rd is in there. You're gonna build it up from the root and then you add the sharp 11 right here. That's that one. Now let's talk about the root. And you're trying, the more that we explain it to you, the harder it feels. And the person is explaining and they're working really hard, you're working hard, everyone's sweating. Somehow it's just getting worse, right? Because now you're not just playing, you're calculating and analyzing and you're constructing and stacking theory in real time. And that is called cognitive pain, my friends, and it compounds really fast. The harder it feels, the longer you think it's gonna take, and then the more that doubt will creep in. And you know, you only get so many years in school, right? Your one path is, well, I'm just gonna limp along, I'm gonna fake it, I'm gonna survive. Maybe one day it'll click. Or you quietly decide, okay, well, I guess I'm not that player. That's the quiet failure. And sometimes you leave the program, and that's not cool. But sometimes you'll stay, but your heart checks out because they're trying to solve a performance problem with an explanation brain. So here's what's really happening. When pros, like the clip that I showed you, when they play, they're not thinking the way they explain it. They don't use the same brain to play that they used to teach, like I've been doing this whole time. All the words that I'm using, explanation brain is verbal. It's step by step, it's constructive. We have to build this concept, right? But the performance brain is visual, spatial, it's patterned, installed, it's automatic, it's instant. And when they're playing, the pros, they are not assembling chords. They're recognizing shapes and they are responding. And that is good news because that means this is trainable. Let's go. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do next. First, I'm gonna show you the mental model. What's actually happening cognitively inside the brain when a pro navigates the desert, okay? Then I'm gonna give you a physical framework. You can put it in your hands immediately. This will be like the lesson part of the video. Not really a lesson, but you're gonna learn something. So we're not giving a theory lecture. We're not gonna construct math. We're just gonna make something playable for you. Because if you install this correctly, that desert stops being the desert and it becomes space. And space is power. And that's how we're gonna make this section go from the most confusing, scariest part of the chart to your favorite part of the chart. Okay, let's take a breath. Now, chord symbols, they look like hieroglyphics, but they're not. These are families of chords, and families of chords equals families of hand positions for us, okay? And when we're dealing with jazz, we're really dealing with 4 families of chords, okay? We can break this down and make it simple. We got major, minor, dominant, and diminished, and we're gonna leave diminished out, and let's just deal with the 3 main ones that we deal with a lot in jazz band. Major, minor, and dominant, okay? So we're calming this down already. We're just dealing with 3 chord families, which means 3 hand positions. Let's look at this chord right here. So we got ourselves a C. Now there's a letter and then there's gobbledygook. Well, there's a letter and then there's numbers and so on. In this case, just without naming the chord or talking about the family, the letter itself represents the root of the chord, which acts like the street name. It's the road that we're on, okay? C, F sharp, B flat, whatever it would be. Now, that's the road you're on, and the bass player drives the street, okay? They're responsible for laying that pavement down for the rest of the band, actually, okay? And they lay down that root down low. And your job is to play the color tones on top. It's like the address on the street, right? Or you're painting the building, okay? So it's the same street, different building, different color, different address, okay? So already we're simplifying this. So now let's go at it the other way around. Let's start with a chord family and let's look at the types of symbols that we'll see. So let's go with the major chord family, major. So normally when I ask somebody, hey, let's play a C major, the first thing we do is we go like this. We play a triad, right? Root, third, fifth, okay? That's a great way to, again, to explain it, but it's not how we play it. So we're in explain mode right now. This note makes it major, and that will be pertinent for the next group when we change that note. But right now, this is what we would normally play. That's bottom-up thinking. That's constructing, okay? That means we need to construct other notes to bring it in, and we need to make it make sense, but that's not how we play these chords. This is not how album-ready chords sound in the band. So I'm going to show you something. I'm going to use an anchor and shapes, or a shape, okay? So let's anchor to the right pinky, and the root is played by the bass player. Well, we're going to mirror that root at the top of our chord, and we're going to play a C right here. And then I'm going to make this shape. Okay? That's the right hand for my C major chord. Already it sounds jazzy. Okay, it's kind of open and colorful. Yeah, nice. Okay, now the thing that makes this the shape is the intervals. You can tell, well, maybe you can tell. If you can't, I'm telling you right now. These are all equidistant from each other in distances. And we measure the distances by the number of keys. There's a key, there's a key, there's a key, there's a key, there's a key. So C, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, next note. And we get this structure. Now what's really cool is we've taken 3 pieces of information and we made it into 1 piece of information. 1. And now this 1 piece of information we can move around. We don't have to calculate what note we played and what next note we should play. We can just pick it up and move it over. Okay? And of course you get better at this. This is something we get good at. We don't just know how to do this coming out of the womb. So we move it up. I move it up in half steps, right? You can move it around in whole steps. You can move it in thirds. Okay, and there's another major third. Here's a fourth. Okay, here's like a tritone. Weird one, right? And again, this is a skill. This is a skill that's teachable here. So back, down. So now what's cool about this is we've already identified a structure that's connected to an anchor, okay? C, structure. I call this the square. This is a C square, C sharp square, D square, E flat square, D square. Do you see what's going on here? C sharp square, C square. We're building from right to left. Cool. Now let's keep going with our major chord. Check it out. I'm going to complete the square, as I call completing the square in the left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Notice I'm counting black notes and white notes. And I like to count up here because this is where the keyboard flattens. You can see every key and you won't miss them. Down here, you're not going to remember to go like that. So here's D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cool. Notice something. How many notes in my right hand? How many notes in my left hand? This is the 2-handed 5-note rootless jazz voicing. Technically rootless jazz voicing, but we use it as our anchor so that we know how to make our shapes. Okay? Already this sounds jazzy. This is amazing and it sounds great. Here, here, here. Listen to that. You're already Count Basie, okay? So if you can do that, you're already playing major chords. Now that you've put these 2 structures together, again, the mind loves to collapse knowledge. It's going to collapse it down to one idea. And this is a practice, but I'm going to show you. You can take this thing and move it all over the place. An F sharp major chord, an F major chord. Do you see it? Do you see it? An E major chord, right? I had to think about that one. E flat, a D major, a C sharp major. This is your new major chord, folks. This is your new major chord, okay? That's just something that you're going to learn and be familiar with. But notice how teachable this is. We didn't talk about theory. So let's now look at the chord symbols now that we would see when we play this chord. Well, you would see the letter C. C defaults to major, okay? So if you just see the letter, then you could just assume, okay, that's a major chord. I'm going to play this. I'm going to play my hand position. Sometimes you'll see a C6. Boom. There it is. Sometimes you'll see a C6-9 chord. Boom. There it is. Now just to ease your theory brain or your information brain, okay, within this hand position, those numbers exist. So let's see, this is our C. We've got our C. This is our 6, and this is our 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Forget I just did that. That's not something for you to memorize. I'm just showing you that it exists, okay? Because this is your hand position. You don't have to know that. You just play this, C major. But there's a couple of other chord symbols in the major family that if we made a small adjustment, we can brighten the sound of this chord. Here's 3 more chord symbols that we look at. And notice there's a new set of letters in there, M-A-J, that stands for major, right? C major 7. Sometimes that major will be a triangle 7, C triangle 7. It means C major 7. I'm trying to think if there's another way that we say major. Yeah, it could just be a C capital M 7, C capital M 7. All 3 of those, capital M, M-A-J, and triangle, it means major. You just learn that after a while. It's like, oh yeah, it's the major. Okay, major 9 and major 13. Now check this out. Okay, now that I know how to play this, C is still my anchor. It's just a reference point. It doesn't mean I have to play it. It just means that I'm notating it in my mind. Okay, I'm going to bring that down here. Listen how bright that is. Right? So now we don't hear the root anymore, so that's why I'm playing the C down here. I'm coming down here to... Yeah, that's a nice, bright sound. And again, this is our C major 7, C major 9, C major 13, and I'm not going to go through it. They're in there, okay? And then this is our C sharp, right? Because that's my anchor and it's a half step down. This is my D, major 7, because there's my D. Here's my E flat, right? I'm trying to do it in a way that you can visually see what I'm going to do here. Boom. E, boom. F, boom. Right? That's how easy it is to make our straight majors into major 7s. And they are different, and there are different usages. So that's your major chord family. Pretty cool, right? So we use that anchor to get our shape, and then we have a little move to color the tone. That's teachable, that's learnable. Okay, let's move on to our next chord family, minor. So we'll go back to, hey, let's play a minor chord. Well, you'll probably in your mind think, well, I know what my major chord is, then I'll make it minor. That's what I call KSPR. That's anchoring. KSPR is keyboard spatial pattern recognition. It means we're using our visual brain to remember something to get the next thing, right? Remembering where we were so that we can get to where we want to go. So I know I was here and I know that I'm going to move this, and now it just becomes choreography, right? We do this all the time. We're just going to apply that to these bigger shapes. So here we go. C major, minor. What changed? In this case, that middle note, or the third, 1, 2, 3, okay, went to minor, went down a half step. So let's play our jazz voicing. Where's the E? Where's the E? There it is right there. And we're going to lower it a half step. And check that out. Listen. Whoa. Okay, that's a big boy chord. That is an album-ready jazz chord right there. Now listen to the C. That's the bass. That's the street we're on. And that's the color of the building, or that's the address of the building, right? right? Tiny adjustment. We went from major to minor. Cool, now let's look at some chord symbols that represent this hand position. We're doing this backwards, okay? Sometimes you'll see a small M, and sometimes you'll see a minus sign. C minor. Got it? Just C straight minor. This is an excellent minor chord to play. Then you'll see a number, C minor 6, or C minor 6, 9, or even a C minor 13. That's 4 chords. 2, 3, and 4. Okay? See how cool this can be right now? Right hand still anchored. Pinky still on C. The small move, we shifted 1 note. Cool. What we don't have is a couple of more numbers, and it's just an easy move. I'm now going to take this one right here. Listen to this. Sounds very jazzy. I'm going to lift that up a half step. Ooh, yeah, that sounds a lot warmer now. Doesn't have as much angle on it, right? Yeah. And now this satisfies a C minor 7, C minor 9. Look at that, 2 more chords. So that's what, 6 chords. C minor 6, C minor 6, 9, C minor 13, C minor 7, C minor 9. Look at that. Now, if you don't notice a pattern here, well, first of all, my right hand hasn't gone anywhere. It's in this square. This square is very, very important to our jazz hands album-ready jazz chords, right? We did this for a second. Oh, I want to show you something. Check this out. Minor. Check the sound out when I do the same move. Ooh, that's pretty cool, right? This is a bonus. I'm just giving this one to you. This one here would be considered a, check it out. It makes sense. C minor with a major 7. C minor major 7. All right, now I'm going to blow your mind with another fact. So if I listen, have the bass player play a C, that's your spy chord, okay? Wow, 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 right? Gordon Goodwin, God rest his soul, with the big fat band. Those chords right there. Bow, bow, wow. That's your spy chord. What else was I going to show you? Oh yeah, so now we can take this C. Now once we have these cool voicings like this, these are interchangeable, and all that happens is the bass note changes, right? We use these same hand positions. Let's say the bass player is playing an F. Okay, and now I'm just gonna put the thing on the screen. It's an F13 sharp 11, okay? And you don't need to know that. That's just a cool hand position over an F, okay? And this is learnable. This is teachable, okay? Let's go up. And I want you to notice something. I want you to see that there is a pattern to this whole, the way the right hand is relating to the left hand. Okay, what just happened? So we didn't build chords. We didn't calculate the upper structures or the altered tones or all that, right? We recognized the street. We landed in a chord family. We used an anchor. We laid down our shapes. And then we had a couple of, one note shifts here and there that easily learnable, right? So that's what the pros are thinking. That's how they're thinking. That's what they're actually picturing in their hands. Here's a little insight. When a pro puts down his hand in a chord position, what he's thinking, he or she is thinking, is that hand in that hand position. That's it. It's as simple as what they're looking at is what they're thinking. That's how they memorize it. It's a movement, it's choreography. So what's the good news here? It's trainable. And we've got one more chord family. Okay, you ready for our dominant family? Now this one's super popular. This is the jazzy chord family. This could be as simple as C with a 7, okay? Sometimes it says C dominant 7 or C DOM 7, okay? But it's a C7. And sometimes that 7 has a line going through it. It just depends on if they hand wrote it or if they printed it out or whatever. You've seen it, or I've seen it over the years as different things, and you'll learn. You'll learn and you'll hear the sound and you'll go, oh, that's what that sound is. I know that's a dominant 7 chord. So let's check this out. So let's go back to our C major again. Notice this is our hub. We can get anywhere from here, okay? So now what we haven't done yet is we haven't stayed on major and lifted this color tone or this guide tone up a half step without moving this. So notice this is staying as major. Now this is going to come up. Oh yeah, that's our dominant 7. That's the 7 of the 7 chord. Sounds good? It's pretty cool. Now you'll see these chord symbols, C7, C dominant 7, C9, C dominant 9, and you'll see C13, right? And it looks complicated. It's not. It's just a new building on the same C street, okay? Again, this is the one hand position that fulfills those, okay? Notice again, we're anchored on C, we got our square, and we've got these 2 notes in the left hand, and notice they kind of have this personality. Yeah, see? We're kind of hanging out in this area right here. Okay, now I kind of fooled you a little bit. I didn't quite lie. I'm just bending the truth a little bit and saying if you see a C13 and you don't know what to play, this hand position totally fulfills that, even though it doesn't have a 13 in the hand position. We're going to put it in there with one easy move. And this is the first time that we're going to see, oh no, this will be the second time that we'll see this square transform. So instead of this coming down a half step, I'm going to slide this note, or this finger over to this finger. Finger 2 goes to finger 3, and listen to the sound. Here's C, okay? Here's the hand position. I'm going to slide up to 3 now. Oh yeah! Listen to the jazz. That's pretty cool, right? That's amazing, right? And you can play them both at the same time. Ooh, yeah, listen to that. So notice how we're referencing this square. We're just putting our hand down now. We're staying here. Those are our guide tones. These are our color tones. And that's our extra little note there. And that's it. Those are our dominant chords, C7, C9, C13, right? You see how easy that is? Just within the same hand positions, we have these little moves. We're not rebuilding. We're not calculating extensions. We're not panicking, okay? The street stays the same, the anchor stays the same, and you slide one thing around. One thing moves. We learn that choreography. Once you learn the choreography in C, then you've got it everywhere. Do you hear that? That is balanced playing, that's consistent playing, and that's professional thinking. So what did we just prove? Well, most of what scares you on the page is category recognition. But once you start recognizing which door you're looking at, then you know what's behind that door. You've got the name of the chord, the root, the street name, right? Then you get the chord family, major, minor, dominant. Then you just find the anchor, which is that street. Boom, anchor it in your right pinky, and then you make your shapes, and then you make your slight moves. And again, 1. There's one move here. There's another move. There's a move, and there's a move. That's how much we covered. Oh, right there. That's how much we covered just now. And that's the skill. That is the desert solution. Understanding the concept of that. That's the thing that makes your director stop waving his hands and look at you and go, amazing. That's the thing that makes your rhythm section lock in. I want you to pause for a second, and I want to take this thing outside of the rules now. And I want you just to look at my hands. There are 3 notes in my right hand as I've been driving home. 2 notes in my left. And that's it. This is the shape. I'm not thinking note names anymore. Right? I'm holding a shape. Notice my right pinky still anchored to things. Everything is built off of that anchor, right? That doesn't work, so let's. Ooh, there we go. Ooh, that's a nice shape. And there's a distance between them. Notice there's kind of this relative distance between my left hand and my right hand. I want you to play with this idea of the jazz sound, the 3 notes in the right hand, making a square, and then making this structure in your left hand made of 2 notes, an interval. And it's usually a fourth or a tritone. Fourth, right? And it could be a fourth here or a fourth here. Both of these fourths will work with, right? You kind of just learn the rules. Like, oh, okay, it's always either this one or this one, this one, this one. And I can even make that one. I can go that far down. So all the way from here. Okay, so those all go together. So it's just these realizations of if my hands always feel like this, then there's a version of these types of shapes that work for my chord symbols. That's huge because that means the sound is not locked behind theory. It's locked behind hand shapes. And imagine this, once you recognize the chord symbol, the name, the street name, once you recognize the family, once you know how to install your anchor, once you know how to make that shape, you point the shapes that you already know how to make in your hand and you just point them at the chord symbol. And suddenly you sound like this. Well, well, look how fast that gap just shrank. That's not 10 years away. That's a system. And that system is trainable. So that's the desert. That's the scariest part, making sense out of it, right? Okay, so what happens after all the solos? After that wide open section? Well, one of 2 things usually happens. Sometimes they both happen, and it's awesome when it happens. So either one, you get a shout chorus. Now that's the big band at full volume. It's a big celebration. It's the arrangement saying, did you hear what just happened? All that improvisation, all that energy. And the band explodes and it's all layered and loud. And if your rhythm section handled that desert really well, then the shout chorus feels earned. And then the second thing, you'll usually go back to the head some point. And you'll restate the melody, and then you'll bring it home, and then you'll skip to the end to what's called a coda. That's what we call the ending. Sometimes we call it the tag, the button, the big hit. A lot of times that's written so that it all gets tightened up and buttoned up at the end, right? It's structured, it's safe. So notice something. Of all the sections that we have, we've got the intro, and a lot of times that's written and it's guided. There's the head, the exposition, and a lot of times there's written notes there too, and that's guided. And then the ending, that's written and guided. The only place that ever felt really dangerous, that was the desert, that open section. And now you know that it's trainable. And now you remember how you felt that gap in the beginning, that whoa moment, right? That's not 10 years away. As we've just demonstrated right here in this video, that's not reserved for prodigies. That's a system installed, simple hand shapes. That's how you get album-ready jazz chords. Not someday, sooner than you think. You're not behind. You were just never shown the map. So now that you know that there's a system to show you exactly where to put your hands, if you want to take that knowledge to the next level and get a quick transformation for a 3-chord blues playing album-ready jazz chords right from the start, I have an absolutely free transformation at my website, jazzhandstudio.com. There you can get a PDF download that introduces you to the 3 hand shapes that we use to get these amazing sounds, and a 6-video series that will have you playing the blues form like a pro. So the link is in the description and you can get your transformation there. Now, let's take the scariest part of jazz piano and turn it into the part you love the most. I'll see you in the next one.